Hey, what up, YouTubers? It's your boy, the Cardtactician, and welcome to another episode of Gravekeepers and stuff. Yeah, that sounds like a good, interesting intro. I think that's what I'm gonna start calling stuff. Yeah. This video is about talking, um, about the how to combat the meta, and fundamentally the meta is basically about special summoning. That's pretty much what it is, either just special summoning monsters or special summoning some boss type monster that holds down the field and pretty much stuns everything. This video can be taken with a grain of salt in that you can apply it not just to Gravekeepers, because that's generally what I play and who I talk to in regards to this and how to get pointers and stuff, but you can take this to any sort of deck that you might run, given that the cards can work in your deck. But I have a small list of cards that I think people should attempt to play in their decks in regards to this meta, especially if you are a budget builder that plays competitively, or if you play tier 2 type decks or lower and you try to play competitively. The fundamental thing is trying to slow down the meta, and I don't think people understand that. Either slow it down or speed up your deck to compete with that meta. And I think fundamentally people realize that a lot of decks that are tier 2 cannot be sped up enough, so the next best thing is to actually slow down the meta. So that they will have to fight you instead of you fighting them. So, I have a list of cards that I'm going to go over that I think people should look into and I think are pretty interesting. The first card that you can probably see in the photo or picture or film is Dark Light. The effect of this card is tribute one dark monster with 1500 or more attack. Destroy all monsters that were special summoned this turn. Very interesting card, a sleeper card. I had seen this card one time before and I didn't think too much of it. But then I started to realize, I looked at the format and I realized, this is actually a pretty good card, because it'll throw your opponent off once they've committed so much to the field. Specifically if you're talking about, let's say, E-Dragons, they chuck 4 cards from their hand and they get 2 dragons out, and you just be like, no, I'm gonna Dark Light you and blow your shit up, and then now you just lost the only 2 monsters that you had on the field. You probably have 1 or 2 cards in your hand, and since Necro Valley's up, you can't banish cards from your graveyard so you can special summon, so they're basically dead in the water. It's specifically for a dark type deck, and pretty much the only deck I think that's out that plays dark type stuff is probably Evil Swarms and Gravekeepers. More or less, Evil Swarms can play this. It might be an interesting tech that people could use in their decks. That might be helpful to stop the swarm, or maybe as a side deck card. Me personally, I tested out in variants of Gravekeepers just to see how it go, and I haven't gotten a chance to actually see how it plays in real play, but I thought it was an interesting card to talk about, and it might be something possible people can test out in their own time. The next card is Vanity's Emptiness. This card is being talked about now, and it's actually being played. Originally, this was a crack card. No one paid attention to it. It was one of those cards that was like, oh my god. I remember I had a friend that plays Yu-Gi-Oh! And he collected a shitload of boxes of, I think, this set and a couple other sets. And I remember he gave me literally 2 boxes full of cards from that set. And it was a bunch of these in there. And I said, what is crap? And I threw it out. And I'm kicking myself in the ass because of that. Damn, I was like, shit. I wish there was at least 7 to 8 of these in the box collectively. I remember specifically running across these, a bunch of these, period. Now, the fact that there are certain decks that can run this, specifically there's this new deck coming out called Bujin, and that's really the reason why people are talking about it, is because of Bujin, and people are running copies of this as tech in their decks, specifically if you're playing dragons and you go, you know what, I drew this Vanity's Emptiness and I do my summoning and I play it, and then your opponent is playing a mirror match against you. This stops them from doing anything and it locks them out completely, period. It's an interesting card. I think people are going to start picking up. It's $5, $6, $7 or something right now. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's $4.99 right now at the lowest price, because it's the next Royal Oppression. Royal Oppression was that card. Period. People played it, and it became a staple in everyone's deck. And I think this is going to be a staple in everyone's deck as well. If I could, I would pick up 3 of these and just hold them and test them out in my Gravekeeper deck to see how they rock, specifically. But yeah, this is another card that people could test out in their deck that can do the same thing, slow the game down. Jowgen. I have been proselytizing about Jowgen specifically for GK players. If you want to compete in this meta, and if you want to slow the meta down and stun it, I'm saying play Trip Jowgens in the main deck. Jowgen is now one of those cards that's being used by spellbook players only at 1. They're not playing 3, but they're playing 1. Actually, I think they're playing 3. It's spellbook what is it, the 2-star one, then it's Kaiku, and probably actually, yeah, they might be playing 3 of them, but originally they were playing 1, and no one else is playing this guy at all. So there's only Spell players playing him at like 1 or 3, depending on what variant you're playing, and there's only 2 variants. Period. I don't know why people, or specifically Gravekeeper players, aren't playing this guy in doubles or trips in the main deck. This guy's great. He stuns the meta, he slows it down, and he turns the game into a game where your opponent has to fight you, not you fighting your opponent. That's the best game to play, because then you can just slow roll your opponent, beat him down. That's pretty much it. Fossil Dyna, Packet Filler, whatever the fuck you call this guy. Fossil Dyna, another good card, pretty much the same thing as Jowgen. People are not playing in the main deck. There's lots of decks that can play this specifically. You can replace this in the Gravekeeper deck specifically, and you can put other cards in the deck to protect him. Pretty much the same effect. Jowgen is a bit better because you can, when he comes out, you can discard a card and pop all special monsters on the field. That's like a dark hole specifically. That's like another dark hole that people don't realize is really good. Then you have Vanity's Fiend. I've bought like a couple of these back in the day, and I saved them. I was like, you know what, this card's gonna be good because he stops special summoning. Most decks won't be able to use them because it's too slow and you need a tribute, but then there's some decks that I've seen, specifically what do you call these guys, the E-Dragons, they play a number of him, or you might play Frog Monarchs, they play a copy of him because he just, again, stuns everything. Like, oh fuck, my whole deck is special summoning, what I'm going to do, and this guy just comes out and says, I'm just going to stun everything, you can't do anything about it, period. So he's good, and you know, these are 5 cards that anyone can get. They're relatively cheap, except for the Vanity's Fiend, Vanity's Emptiness. Everything else is like real cheap, no one's really using it. Then there's one card I want to talk about that combos with Jowgen specifically that I use in my Gravekeeper deck. It's Gaga Shield. Basically, this is a poor man's safe zone that only equips the spellcasters, and up to twice per turn, that monster cannot be destroyed by card effects or by battle. Playing trips of this and playing trips of Jowgen makes it very difficult to get the Jowgen off the field, if not impossible. And because of that, you stun your opponent's game. You stun entire decks just with that combo alone. I advise Gravekeeper players, if you're watching this video, run that combo in trips in your deck, and you'll be surprised how good it works. Run some Dark Bribes to protect it, or whatever it is, and you'll see how much like your Gravekeeper deck can compete in this format, in this meta. Alright, that's it. Thank you for watching. Take care.